Today's workshop is What does Vermont's Pathways to Partnership bring to the table? I'm excited to introduce you to Liz Perreault from Vermont Pathways to Partnerships. She's the project director. Liz has over 18 years of combined experience in state government, education, and workforce development, including leadership roles in the Plainfield School District and the Getting Ready to Work program. As Vermont Pathways to Partnerships, or P2Ps, leader, she is dedicated to empowering students with disabilities with strong systems of support, student leadership, and successful career and post-secondary pathways. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that introduction. My name is Liz Perreault, and I am the Pathways to Partnerships Project Director. Just a little bit about the Pathways to Partnerships project. It is a federal grant from the Department of Education, and it is a 5-year grant that started in 2023 and goes to 2028. Next. So can you think of a time when partnership made it possible to accomplish something that would have been impossible to do alone? Well, Vermont has an amazing opportunity to create meaningful partnerships and training for students and schools to enhance post-school success. And I included this Helen Keller quote because it's just perfect. Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. And that is the entire point of this project, is to bring all the wonderful resources that Vermont already has in a way that's more accessible and easier to access for students, families, and professionals. Next. So students with disabilities in Vermont often face significant challenges when transitioning from high school to adulthood. The Vermont Pathways Partnership Project unites a wide range of partners who understand these needs and are committed to building stronger pathways that lead to successful employment and post-secondary opportunities. The research that was done when we were applying for this grant showed that students who have a disability and leave high school without either employment or going into higher education didn't do so well in their future. Like that launching period between high school and adulthood is really a critical point for students to forge their path forward in whatever they're interested in, whether it's furthering their education or jumping right into the workforce or whatever that is, whatever their plan is. It's important to have a strong, robust plan. And Pathways to Partnerships is really about a commitment to students and their families and making sure that that transition plan is robust and really hits the needs of the students as they move forward. Next. So I spoke a little bit about the timeline. As I said, we received this grant. So the Division for the Blind and Visually Impaired actually applied for this grant with the help of community partners. And we were granted the grant in 2023. We are currently at the day 2 of year 3, and we have just expanded into approximately 22 new schools beyond the 3 pilot schools that we had in year 2. And so we're really starting to hit our stride and working with schools and professionals and our community partners to get these services to students in a new and inventive way, and to build those relationships so that schools are comfortable with reaching out to community partners are comfortable with reaching out to the schools, and the same for parents and and the students. So today is day 2 of year 3, and so we have 3 full years to move this project forward. And year 5 will be really focusing on how to make sure that the work that we are doing now is sustained beyond the project. This project does not bring anything new, so to speak, to students. It's just bringing already existing resources to students in a way that hasn't been done in the past, and to get everybody who's doing this wonderful work on transition for students to get onto the same page, and so that the silos, those barriers, are less and hopefully completely gone. But that's ideal. I'll be happy with less at the end of this 5 years, and then to build on that beyond the grant. So yeah, so we had a year of planning. We had the second year of working with 3 pilot schools. We were at CVU, Green Mountain Union School, and Bellows Falls Union School. And then we've just added a bunch more schools this school year, and then we'll add hopefully the rest of the public schools in year 4. And then year 5 will just be really making sure those services and those systems are in place. So when this grant wraps up, Vermont is left in a better state. Next. So there's 3 main goals of the we call it P2P, Vermont P2P. There are 3 main goals in this grant. One is to establish partnerships and high-performing systems of support. Goal 2 is center leadership, advocacy, and engagement of people with disabilities and their families. And goal 3, to improve outcomes for youth with disabilities. Next. So, as I've been saying, Vermont is forming interagency partnerships across an array of stakeholders to establish a comprehensive set of systems and strategies to achieve post-secondary success for youth with disabilities. Students and families build, hopefully, through this grant, students and families build strong and lasting partnerships with community resources during and after their transition out of high school. And I would also say it's not just students and families, but it's also as I said earlier, the partners and the school's staff building their relationships so that they can really support students and families as they move through their high school years and work towards a transition into adulthood. Next. So who are our community partners? Well, it's really anybody who works with students with disabilities and specifically transition, but our core partners, our formal partners, are the Agency of Education, the Vermont Schools, the Vermont Center for Independent Living, DBVI, which is the Division for the Blind and Visually Impaired, who actually applied for this grant. Higher Ability is a huge player there. We're using their infrastructure to really get students enrolled and connected with activities from the partners. Green Mountain Self Advocates, Vermont Family Network, thank you very much. Resource is a huge partner, and VABVI, Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired, Vermont Developmental Disabilities Council, and UVM Center on Disabilities and Community Inclusion, and Educational Services Program for Deaf, Hard of Hearing, and Deaf-Blind students at UVMMC. So they are our core partners that we have written into the grant, and we are working hand in hand with all of them. But of course, we are happy to work with other agencies and organizations throughout Vermont to bring whatever resources are available to students into the fold. DOL, Department of Labor, is partner that isn't named here, but they definitely are. We're having more conversations with them in the work that they do with students who transition. Um, the Vermont designated agencies are certainly partners that we would like to work a little bit more closely with, but they're in a big transition right now. So I imagine once that dust settles a little bit, we'll be working closer with them and how to help that transition from high school into adult services be a little bit smoother. Um, so those are just a couple that aren't our formal partners, but certainly our people, our organizations that we want to work with and get into this conversation. Next. So the support for students, what does this project do specifically for students? These are some examples of what we're offering students. It's not comprehensive, it's not exhaustive, but it gives you an idea of what we're trying to do. The focus areas are around getting student engagement, helping students learn to be self-advocates, so that they know how to ask for what they need and know how to do it in a way that it can be heard. Encourage leadership in students who want to become a peer mentor or in any leadership role that they are interested in. We would like to support that. And with doing some of that, the self-advocacy, of course, is really tied into being a good leader. It's like learning how to express yourself. Specialized support, independent living skills, pre-employment transition supports, and job career readiness. Ways that students can engage are in direct services in schools. We would really love to see student-led IEPs meetings. There's a lot of work to be done there, but that is a goal. Opportunities outside of school with community partners, providing ways to share resources. We do have a Pathways Post newsletter if parents or professionals or anybody is interested in what's going on in the world of P2P. We're happy to add you to our list. We also have a P2P website that will be the thing that we produce, that will be the thing that we make through this project that will last beyond this grant. And on that P2P website, it's all about transition, and it's all about resources for families, for students, for professionals. So it's all in one place. And of course, another way students can engage is by reaching out to their school staff or higher ability transition counselor. And of course, our staff at P2P are always welcoming any emails or calls with questions. Some examples of how we support students and the types of activities that are offered. Green Mountain Self-Advocates are offering self-advocacy training. They're also offering training for peer educators. Used to be called peer mentors, but what they're really doing is educating and holding groups after school, and students with disabilities can go to these groups and talk about like the things that they're if they have questions about things, or if they're struggling with something, or if they just want to be around people that understand their struggles. It's a great opportunity for students to be involved in these group peer environments. It's very supportive. There's Ready, Set, Work training that's out of Resource, and it's currently being offered in the Burlington or Williston store, and hopefully will be expanded into the Barry area. Specialized support and for visual impairment and deaf and hard of hearing. That's the VABVI, DBVI, and ESP partners that provide that type of support. Vermont Center for Independent Living has a couple of workshops, virtual workshops, so anyone can access them no matter where you're from, which is amazing. We'd like to see more of virtual opportunities because of the rural nature of Vermont and how hard it is to get from one place to another. So VSIL's really doing some great things with offering some workshops this year. And so that's exciting. And then there's resources from CDCI and our team at P2P that we can share on different like assessments or interest inventories or research documents. If you're wondering about something, there's a lot of different resources that are available that are provided by the P2P project through CDCI and the work that we're doing. And also, bonus, any participating schools in P2P has access to Pathful, which is an online work-based learning tool that provides students with an opportunity to learn different skills, if they're interested in a particular industry that isn't even in Vermont, they can schedule a time with a professional, an industry leader anywhere in this country. They have thousands of different participating employers that they can speak directly to. There's like a shadowing component to it. I'm not sure how that works. I haven't seen it in action, but it's pretty amazing program, and it's P2P is providing that to the participating schools in Vermont. Next. So students and families lead the transition IEP process, and with self-advocacy and engagement. So that is the hope. That is what we're trying to encourage and create an environment for. We really want the students' voices to be prominent in these plans because it is their life, it is their future, and it's important that they explore what they are interested in and learning what they like and in my opinion, more importantly, what they don't like. And so part of that is the work that happens in those exploratory years in high school. And I didn't mention this earlier, and I should mention this now. So this grant is open to students ages 10 through 24 and are on an IEP or a 504. And so the hope is to start those conversations on transition at a much earlier age, start exploring interests in middle school. And then by high school, maybe the student will have a much better idea of what they're interested in. And maybe the student will have those skills that will really help them advocate for themselves in their transition planning and IEP meetings. And so really that's where we're trying to create leadership, trying to create self-advocacy, trying to create a much more robust plan with their voice from an early age. One of the other highlights of this grant that's very important is for students to have some disability pride and to understand their civil rights. And so when they're going into a situation, either at work or college or certificate program, they understand what their rights are and how to advocate for them. We also want to train LEA, so that stands for local education agencies. So that would be your schools. And so we really are trying to encourage staff at schools to support student-led IEP meetings and prioritize student input and the use of natural supports in transition plans, like their families, like their friends, like adults in their life that can help support them in their journey. We also hope that schools will take us up on learning how to create a stronger, more robust summary of performance. And what is a summary of performance? It's actually a required document from the federal government that all students with a disability they're supposed to leave with a SOP. And what that is supposed to do is really talk about what supports a student really needs in order to be successful and it's usually used when they go into higher education, not so much when they go into employment, although it can be, but it's just not used that way necessarily. Excuse me. So the summary of performance is like an IEP plan, but it's a little more holistic and it's looking at the whole student instead of just these educational pieces. It's more, like I said, it's a little more holistic look at a student's not plan, but what would help a student really be their best and what they need. Next. Few more outcomes and initiatives that we have from Goal 2. Support family engagement and job discovery activities in transition planning. So it's really important to us that students engage in work-based learning activities and so that they're ready for that job when they leave high school. Also supported decision-making trainings for families and students so that they are aware of alternatives to full guardianship. It's really important that students be as independent adults as they can be. That makes sense. And so there's a lot of information around that, and that will be available in different trainings throughout the next few years. And ongoing. There's always been trainings on this, but that's a very big goal of P2P. And hopefully in the end of all this, students will report that they lead their IEP meetings and that their input is impactful and that they have family, friends, and mentors to support them in adult life. Like that's the ultimate goal. Family members will hopefully report that they are meaningfully engaged in their students' transition. Transition is hard. It's hard for everybody. And I think as parents, we really feel our children's struggles more than they do. Like it's hard. And so hopefully we will have in place better supports, better education to help all of us, community partners, schools, parents, students, move through this transition in a really supportive way. Next. So just a quick note of the schools that we are currently in for this coming school year. We have two coordinators, transition coordinators, Luke Grenier, who supports the northern schools, and Jamie Brown, who supports the southern schools. And you can see the list of schools here. And there's really not much more to say about that, but that we're excited to get started in these schools. Next. So goal 3, improve outcomes for youth with disabilities. So youth with disabilities in Vermont will hopefully have, after P2P gets their hands on this system, ambitious, personally meaningful transition goals that lead to improved outcomes during high school and after graduation. They will also have effective transition plans that address the full range of employment, post-secondary education, and independent living skills necessary for a successful adult life. And we're hopeful that access to more integrated and effective employment and transition services is achieved. All of this is a lot of work. It will take a broad array of disability organizations and stakeholders with a shared vision of high expectations for students' post-school success. These provider agencies will participate in transition planning. LEAs have an important role to support ambitious, comprehensive transition plans and involve partner organizations. So it's really about, again, taking everything that already exists. Vermont has a lot of wonderful resources, but it's sometimes really hard to know what's out there. So we're really hoping that this project will start pulling everybody into the center, so we're all aware of each other and can really support the population that we're working with, which is the students and families. Next. So there's support for professionals, lots of opportunities for trainings, and we're hoping that there's a listserv that we're hoping professionals will utilize and be able to ask each other questions like, what are you doing in, the thing about Vermont, you might have a school in the north and a school in the south that have so much in common, but they don't even know about each other, and they're working on the same things. And our hope is to provide a system where those schools can connect and talk and share resources and share ideas, because they have more in common with each other than they do with their neighboring schools. So that is a huge piece of what we're trying to do in supporting professionals. And we're also trying to help the community partners understand what each other are doing. There's some overlap, and not in a bad way, but there's some crossover where they can maybe work together and really create a system that really plays off each other instead of bumping up against each other. So, resources are limited, and we're all working really hard. And I think it's important that Vermont takes a look at the systems that exist and really work off that. I think that's going to be the most sustainable thing we can do as a state, especially in these times of uncertainty. We have a lot of skill, we have a lot of knowledge, we have a lot of heart. And so I think it's really important that we find ways to really communicate and work together on all this. And so supporting the professionals in that way is really important to this project. Next. So systems support. So honestly, to me, there are a lot of activities that are being offered to students and to professionals, like some professional development and some understanding. But ultimately, this project is about systems change. It's taking what exists and really making it a better system, a more efficient system, so that we can work together and make it stronger instead of working independently and really just trying to figure stuff out on our own. And we need to pool this knowledge resource that we have across the state so that our students and families are really supported in the best way possible. Some of the focus areas are interagency collaboration and collaborative teaming that I keep talking about over and over and over again. Student participation and self-determination is really key. Family engagement is crucial to a student's success. We want to decrease graduation or increase graduation and decrease the dropout rates. Having robust, ambitious transition plans, positive post-school outcomes, and really information sharing is super important. One of the things I really want to talk about is there is a leadership committee that we've had for the past year plus, and we're currently restructuring our broader meetings. And but there's a leadership committee meetings that will be happening bi-monthly in the next, and we have to figure out the schedule. I don't have the schedule yet, but that's coming as we restructure. But there will be an opportunity for families and students, ideally, to participate, and professionals in this leadership committee. So it includes P2P staff, it includes the core partners, and then any stakeholder that is interested in transition and what P2P is trying to do. So we encourage anyone who's interested to please let us know. We'll put you on the invite list. It's a virtual Teams meeting. And again, it will happen bi-monthly. The schedule is still to be determined, but we are working that out currently and should have an answer within next couple of weeks. We have the P2P website, which is really important asset to this whole thing. Please go visit it, check it out. We are in the early stages of development, so it doesn't have everything that we want it to have, but it still has a decent amount of resources. It has a community calendar, so you can see what's coming up, things that are available. So I just encourage you to check it out and keep checking it out, because we are hoping to consistently make improvements and add new things. The Pathways Post is an electronic newsletter that we do monthly. And if you're interested in receiving that, also let us know. We're happy to put you on our emailing list and send that to you. The Transition Pros listserv is also that's for the professionals that want to share information and talk about what they're doing and ask questions and and share resources. So that's another wonderful engagement piece. I think that's good. Next. So Higher Ability's role, they are providing, Higher Ability has transition counselors in all the public schools in Vermont, and they are helping the P2P project by enrolling students into the project. And so if you have a student that is in one of the participating schools, contact your local Higher Ability transition counselor, and they will help with the enrollment. And with that enrollment, there's an enrollment form that needs to be signed by the guardians. And then also there's a survey that we really encourage families to fill out. It helps us. It's part of the grant requirement that we have a survey, and it helps us gather information about ultimately, it will help us understand where students are starting, and hopefully once P2P gets rolling and students and families participate, the outcomes and their understanding of things has increased. And so there'll be a follow-up survey. But please, if your student is interested or gets enrolled, if you could please participate in the survey, that would be fantastic. And then there's transition core teams that Higher Ability hosts regionally across the state. And that's where professionals talk about supports that they are able to offer to students in their region. Next. So I talked a little bit about the leadership team. So I would really encourage anybody who's interested to please let me know, let us know, so we can get you involved and have you come. Even if all you do is come and want to listen in and be a fly on the wall, we just encourage that. We want to hear from families. We want to hear from students. It's part of our commitment that we have 50% of the leadership team be composed of self-advocates and or family members and students. And then we have the executive committee, that is the other month of the bi-monthly schedule, where the core partners get together and figure out what we're going to do for the leadership team meeting and to address any issues that might be bubbling up or things that we want to address as a larger group. Next. So here's our website. Again, I encourage you to go visit and check it out. Feedback is always welcomed. Again, this is a new website we created it from scratch. So any feedback that you can give is welcomed. Next. And our contact information. So you have my contact information, my email, and then Luke Grenier and Jamie Brown are our transition coordinators. And then Kim Goodry is our administrative manager who supports us, administratively. So I think that is it. That's my last slide. So I welcome any questions that anyone might have, and I'll do my best to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Liz, for sharing all this great information about pathways to partnerships. Before we get to questions, we're going to take a short pause to ask folks who are attending this to complete the evaluation for this workshop, so that we can make improvements and also fulfill grant requirements. There we go. Rachel has just put that link in the chat. So again, I'm just going to give you like half a minute to a minute of silence so that you can fill it out. Thanks. Okay, I know a short silence and an online meeting always feels really long. So we thank all of you who have been working on the evaluation. And I will go ahead and ask the questions that we have received, before this presentation, as well as a couple that have come in during the presentation. But folks should also feel free to unmute themselves if they would like to ask a question live. So a couple of questions came in before. So what about teens? So this from a parent. What about teens whose diagnoses are not severe enough to qualify for adult supports? What help is there to get job and college skills?
That's a great question. So I would encourage you to reach out to Higher Ability. They certainly support students into adulthood, and they have a great adult program. There's also, and they can also point you in the direction of other supports. Vermont Center for Independent Living could probably help with achieving some skill level that you might want your student to get to in order to be able to feel comfortable going out into the work world. But I would start with Higher Ability. I think that they would be a really great asset specifically for that. Is this student already graduated, or it's a teen in high school currently, right? You just have the question
Yeah,
right.
this was
Sorry.
pre-op. I
Yeah,
don't know. Yeah,
yeah.
the
Um,
parents. Mhm.
so I would also encourage the student to talk to their school professionals and reach out to us so we can uh, pathways to partnership and we can have a little bit more information. We could guide you a little bit better. It's hard. It's hard to say exactly what would be a good fit or the appropriate, but Higher Ability is certainly an easy one to point to.
Right. And so High Ability has transition counselors, I believe, in every school or designated. So whichever school a child is in or teen is in, there will be a High Ability transition counselor affiliated. And I think you can find that information on the High Ability website. So another pre-asked question from a parent was, my 29-year-old son has mental health issues and we are looking for resources to help him and us.
Yeah. And I would say unfortunately, this grant only goes to age 24. But I would suggest, the designated agency for your area would be a good start. And I don't know if Karen, you
Yeah,
have
and
more.
certainly parents, yes, can call us, and we can help you connect with a designated agency to see what supports are available. But yes, the Pathways to Partnership grant basically extends only to a little beyond high school and not really into adult services.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and ask the next question that's in the chat. How are homeschooling families able to get involved and what resources are available to us? There are a significant number of students with disabilities who are homeschooled and not in public schools. So I'm just going to go ahead and add on to that, Liz. How are families in general, whether their kids are or their teens are, well, 10-year-olds, so whether their children are in school, in public schools and independent schools, as well
Mm.
as, homeschooling, kids in
Yeah.
homeschooling, how do they get
Yeah.
the
That's a very good question. And honestly, we entered into this grant specifically working with public schools. That was our intent. We have myself, two coordinators that are handling half this, the entire state. And so capacity wise, we weren't sure what we were able to do. But we are looking at homeschooled students just this conversation just kind of came up in the last week and a half. So um, we are looking at homeschooled students as almost in our minds as like another school, so to speak. Vermont Center for Independent Living um, has said that they would help enroll students that are homeschooled into P2P. And then they would be, given the information that we have, and they can participate as much or as little as they want in the activities that are offered through P2P. So I would say reach out to Visa or me and our team about homeschool. And as far as therapeutic schools, where we've landed right now for this school year is if there's a participating school associated with a therapeutic school, they have a student that's in a therapeutic school, then we can support that student if they want to enroll. Private schools, we haven't quite figured out the best way to support the students in those schools. So for right now, we're sticking to the half of, not even quite half of the public schools, homeschoolers, and then any student that's in a therapeutic school that's part of that is really a student of a participating school. We can fold them into this. It's just been a capacity issue, and we're working towards building capacity and a system that can we can reach as many students as possible because we
Right,
don't want to leave anybody out.
right, because there are the therapeutic schools that are alternative placements, but then there are also the independent schools.
Yeah.
And for the districts that do not have a public high school, often the students end up in one of the independent schools or academies. So hopefully that will all be, that students will be able to access
Yeah.
the services. And how do students actually access the services? Are they supposed to sign up through their school?
Yeah, so a lot of the idea is that a lot of this will happen in groups at the school. That's the idea. There are some virtual opportunities where they would have to sign up. It's going to depend on the partner who's offering the activity too, on how the activities are being offered. So it will vary. But the schools that you, and that's why that's why the infrastructure and the support at the schools and is really important to help us share that information and get that stuff out to the students and the families. That's one way they have a lot more support if they're in a school that has the transition counselor to help support them. But yeah, it will depend on the partner and how they're offering their activities. Some will be virtual, some will be after school, some will be in person at the school. So it's a variety of ways.
Okay, so the students should hear about opportunities through the school, but hopefully, will it also be on the Pathways to Partnership
Yeah.
website and in the
Yep, on the website and in the post. And so there are other ways that you don't have to rely on the school staff to share. You don't have to rely on the school. There are other ways if you're interested. Yeah, everything will be posted on the community calendar of events and in our monthly newsletter.
Okay, so this question is pretty much similar about how parents and families are being looped in. You mentioned the leadership team that will include parents as well as individuals? So, and that has not yet started then.
Not, well, yeah, we had had a leadership committee all along, but we are restructuring. So we have taken a pause and we haven't figured out what the schedule is. But yes, I encourage all families and students in particular. We really want student involvement but it's hard because it's during their school day. So, but yes, we want advocates and families to be part of this. And so just share your email and we'll put you on the list.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Folks are still on. You're welcome to ask your questions live. You can turn your camera on or not. Okay, well, I think Liz is always available. She put her contact information. So, thank you, Liz, for giving us the information. It's really been, very, very informative. And we have many more interesting workshops coming up. You can find details on our workshops on the homepage of our website. Folks can also follow us on Facebook, or they can join the closed Facebook page if they have children or adult children with disabilities or special health needs. We also have our monthly e-newsletter. We have our videos on our YouTube channel, and this video will be on it too once we have finished processing it. So we are always here to help. And so if you have any questions about what you heard Liz say, you can also call us at VFN. So thank you everyone for attending and have a great day.
Thank you.